Hello, we are back doing a study here today on the continuation of the Abomination of Desolation. And this is going to be a little different, maybe, I guess I could say, in that we're going to pinpoint this time because Jesus did. In Matthew 24, verse 15, he said, "And when you shall see the desolation of the abomination of desolation." And so I want to look at some scriptures here today that pinpoint this particular event. And it goes, some of this we've done before in previous videos. And this is going to be like just a rapid fire, one after another, as the Bible mentions this. And so, beginning with the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, again, we have read this before. Verse 13, it says, "For thou hast said in thine heart," okay, this is Lucifer speaking. So this is his ambition. And he's talking to himself. He's thinking about his ambition. Okay, so "Thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north." And this is the particular one to look at is, "I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north." So his ambition is to seat himself, on the mount. This is no doubt referring to Zion, Jerusalem, where the temple is. And so here we have in Isaiah the first mention of this act of Satan in the form of the Antichrist seating himself in the temple of God. Jesus said he had come and they would not receive him. Speaking of himself, Jesus, that his people would not receive him, but another would come. He said, "I've come in my Father's name and you won't receive me." But he said, "There's going to come one in his own name. You will receive him." So this is the coming of this man of sin, the deceiver, and they will for a time receive this man as their Messiah. Now, we read also Ezekiel 28, and I'm going to read the second verse, and this is continuing with the idea of seating, Antichrist seating himself. It says, "Son of man, say unto the prince of Tyrus, Thus saith the Lord God, because thine heart is lifted up, and thou hast said, I am a God. I sit in the seat of God in the midst of the seas. Yet thou art a man, and thy heart is and thou set thy heart as the heart of God." Okay, so here again, this Prince of Tyre, which earlier we have identified as a type of the Antichrist, he's going to seat himself in the seat of God. So there's again a reference to sitting in the temple, declaring himself that he is God. And so I'm going way over to the New Testament now, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. And again, we've read this. But verse 4 of chapter 2, 2 Thessalonians says, "Who opposeth," and speaking of this man of sin, "who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God." Okay, so Jesus again makes reference to this abomination of desolation. The abomination is this satanic filled person going into the most holy place, declaring himself to be God, sitting himself in the seat of God. And at that time, there is going to be an awakening of the eyes of God's natural people, Israel. And they're going to realize that at that point that he is not God, and a strong and a terrible persecution is going to begin at that time. Now, I'm going to go back to the book of Daniel and pinpoint this again in a few places here. And we're going to start at chapter 8 of Daniel. And we're going to read verse number 12. As I get there, all right, there's 8 and 12 says, and an host was given him. And I probably should back up and read verse 11. It says, yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. All right, so this daily sacrifice is when the Antichrist says, we're not sacrificing to God anymore. And this is what the Jews are doing at the time. They're sacrificing, as they did in the Old Testament, to God. And the Antichrist says, no more of this. I'm not going to let you worship your God anymore. And this is what clues them in finally, that this Antichrist, whom they have accepted as their Messiah, is not their Messiah. And again, this is when persecution really begins by the Antichrist. It's when the mark of the beast is instituted. And it also begins a 3.5-year period of great tribulation. Again, now I'm reading verse 12. In verse 11, the daily sacrifice was taken away by the Antichrist. Verse 12, and says, and an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. So he has spiritual power with him, a host. We read in the book of Revelation, chapter 12, that the great dragon was cast down, who is Satan and the devil, and a third of the stars, or a third of the the angels fell with him. So there was a host that came with Satan at this point. And the great time of bad things, and I said great, I don't want you to think it means good, but bad things. This is where there is a mass infilling of people with the wrong spirit, demonic possession taking place at a scale never seen before. A few years ago, there were those that were into the New Age movement, and they were looking for what they call the harmonic convergence, or critical mass in a spiritual way. And this is a time that would fulfill their looking for that particular event to happen. And so, and the host was given him against the daily sacrifice. So he has spiritual demonic forces with him by reason of transgression, and it cast down what? The truth to the ground. So all these spirits are going to be casting the truth to the ground. You need, and I need, to be rooted and grounded in the Word of God now. Because when the Antichrist comes, he's coming with great deception, and he's going to have spiritual backup to the tune of a third of all the angelic spirits that were in heaven. And it says, and it practiced and prospered. Now, there's a lot to all of these things, but that word practice has been thought to mean an association with witchcraft, or we practice witchcraft or satanic worship. So there's going to be that kind of thing going on at that time. And I want to go back to 2 Thessalonians again real quick. And as we read on down, I'm not going to read all of these verses, but we see that he sits in the seat of God, showing himself that he is God. And verse 7 says, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work, only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. Verse 8, and then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall come with the spirit of his mouth, and destroy him with the brightness of his coming. So how the Lord's going to come, but not for a while. There's going to be a season where Satan and the Antichrist are going to have their way. And we're going to read about that in a little bit. Verse 9 says, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders. And there again, it's not time to start figuring out what's happening, because you're going to look and see this thing happen, and there are signs and wonders going on, and the Bible says, if it were possible, that this whole business is even going to deceive the elect of God, the people that are already knowing the truth and understanding it. And verse 10, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish. Unrighteousness, deception is going to cause people to perish, because they receive not the love of the what? Truth. What did it say? They were going to, let me read it, trod underfoot the truth. And cast the truth to the ground. So the thing that's going to save people through this time is knowing what the truth is and sticking with it without regard to the supernatural signs and wonders that are being done by this man of sin. And it says, and for this cause God shall send them strong delusion. I'm still back in 2 Thessalonians 2. For this cause God shall send them strong delusion, and they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned who believe not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. There's a lot of folks say it doesn't matter what you believe. It does matter what you believe. It does matter if you get into this Word of God and seek it and find out what God says is the thing that you need to do in order to find out how to be ready when he comes. And it's not that difficult. We have other videos that we can talk about that will bring us to understanding that. Okay, so now we're reading through a little more here in chapter 8, verse 13. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint unto the, okay, Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? So he said, how long is this going to last? How long is Satan going to have his way here doing this stuff? So there's two saints talking to one another, wanting to know this. Daniel sees this in a vision, and it says, and he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. So we're seeing a couple thousand days taking place, and we're looking at 3.5 years, that the sanctuary then is going to be cleansed. Now, I'm going to go back to chapter 7 of Daniel. And while it doesn't mention specifically the abomination of desolation, it does talk about a number of days. And we find that in the 25th verse of chapter 7. Again, I'm going to back up just one verse to get the gist of this. It says, and he shall speak great words against the Most High. Okay, again, this is Satan. And shall wear out the saints of the Most High. Okay, here we go, that persecution that we're talking about. And think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of times. Well, the time is a year, and times is 2 years, plural. And then a dividing of time is a half a year. 1 year, 2 years, and a half. So you add all that together, of course, you get 3.5 years. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion and consume and to destroy it unto the end. Okay, again, we're just touching on all of these points where this abomination of desolation is mentioned, or the time of Satan's rule, if you want to call it, through the Antichrist is taking place. So we're going to jump to chapter 10. I told you this was going to be just one thing after another. Chapter 10 of Daniel, verse I have written down verse 31, but it can't be because there's no 31 there. Let me go back to chapter 9, verse 27. And it says, and he, the speaking again of the Antichrist, shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. So here again is this mentioning of the desolation and the abomination that's taking place. And so again, we are just pointing out these scriptures. I have my tendency is to go into each one, but we're not doing that. We're just hitting them one after another here. And so the next one is going to be found in chapter 11, and so I had written down 10, so that's where I got confused here, but it's actually chapter 11, and I'm going to read verse 31, and it says, "And arms," or military power, "shall stand on his part," or he's going to have military power, "and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate." So this thing is mentioned not just once or twice. I mean, it's introduced way back in Isaiah, in the beginning when Satan gets these thoughts. Ezekiel gives us a type and a shadow of the Antichrist, but Daniel, he keeps saying, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to happen. And so here's the abomination of desolation. I've got to read just a little bit more here in Daniel. Chapter 11, verse 32, "And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries, but the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits." So even in the midst of this time when there's great persecution, and Jesus calls it tribulation, there are people that are going to know their God. See, it's not time to start figuring it out then. It's time to know and to go forward. And they are going to do what the Bible says here as exploits. Now we're going to jump to Daniel 12, verse 11. And it says, and again, I'm going to back up one verse. "Many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand." I can't overemphasize, this is a time, if you're not ready for this, you're not going to make it through it. So now is the time. I mean, if you want Bible studies, now's the time to speak up. Say, hey, can you come over? Can you drive up to such and such a town? Or, we're ready to do this thing. Okay, and we cannot wait till it's upon us, or we won't have the knowledge. We won't have the spiritual strength to go through. All right, "Many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be" what? "Taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days." Here's the 3.5 year period of time again. And then he says something, I don't want to say strange, but it's curious. In verse 12, "Blessed is he that waiteth and cometh to the 1,305 and 30 days." So there is this abomination of desolation is set up, and it lasts for 1,290 days. And then the prophet says that blessed is he that waiteth for 45 days more than that. Now, I'm going to go back to the book of Matthew, because this is where this whole thing started. We're supposed to be studying Matthew 24. But when we get to this 15th verse, and I'll read that to you. "When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand." Okay, this is what Jesus warned about. He said, when you see this, then you've got to do some stuff, because it's going to come upon you to the extent that he says, if you're on the housetop, don't turn around and go get your clothes. And he says, woe to those that are with child and those that are nursing children. It's not going to be easy for you. You've got to be ready. You've got to be prepared, and that you've got to do it quickly. Pray that your flight be not in winter, neither on the Sabbath day. Why? Next verse, and I've jumped back into Matthew 24, verse 21. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not seen since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And then he says this thing, and except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. And so here we have the 45 days shortened in Daniel that he speaks of. And so God is going to bring this to a shortened end. And we're not going to get into all of that. I was just about to, but I think we're going to have to just let this soak in. If you didn't catch all these scriptures, look at this video again, write them down. You can go back and you can read all of these again and catch more of the context, read what's going on around. And remember that this time that Satan is allotted, a lot of times is referred to as Daniel's 70th week. But the week ends, not the weekend, but the week ends after the tribulation ends. So basically what I'm saying is the tribulation is going to end first, and then the 70th week of Daniel will end later. It would be my guess. Our study has said that 45 days is the difference between the end of the tribulation, which happens first, and the end of Daniel's 70th week, which is obviously happens this second. And then again, no flesh will be saved except that period of time takes place. And we're going to go through these verses again as we go on in Matthew 24. But I want to read just one little thing, and I'm jumping all the way down to verse 29. And it says, immediately after the tribulation, remember I said it ends first, of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the earth shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. So we find that what finally ends this whole thing is the coming of the Lord. And so be ready. That's all I'm saying. It's very hard to go through all of this material in just these few minutes, but I still want to keep it pretty short. And so I hope that that you kept up with that. Remember, we were just pinpointing the Abomination of Desolation and looking at a little bit of stuff that goes around that particular time, especially the 3.5 years that Jesus calls the Great Tribulation. So we're praying for you. You need something, let us know. God bless you, and we will continue this study in the next few days. God bless.